deeper in Webhook. I want to explain what we could not address in the previous videos, and also if you are seeing this for the first time, this is our 60-day series where we talk about AI. We actually break down the 5 layers of AI. We are on layer 3, which is about APIs, webhooks, connections, HTTP modules, and many more. We're going to talk about the testing, the setup of a webhook in the first place, security, and also the best practices when you are using webhooks. So how I do this is I put together a resource guide, which is what you can see here now. I put together a resource guide. I just put every single thing so that while I explain, you can follow along on every single one of them. And I'm sure it will be very interesting because so far we have been enjoying these classes. Pretty sure you guys are familiar with this, where we talked about polling, and I talked deeper about scheduling as well versus a webhook. Now, a webhook, in simpler terms, receives a data instantly as it's being sent, it's being pushed to it. A webhook just gets the data in, right? While the polling is the other type trigger that we do is asked to go and pull it in. Just these are the two differences. The way I'm going to explain here using this diagram is that, I mean, you are familiar with this using make.com. You might need to take as long as 15 minutes or for people using the free accounts. However, for those using the paid accounts, you can actually get that under 1 minute, which is probably better. But in cases when you use a webhook makes this thing instant. Unlike having to check every single time. No, when you're using a polling, it's going to keep checking per the schedule you've added there, like this 15 minutes. Every 15 minutes it goes to check. While a webhook is always listening, right? That was what I told you guys. So that's basically what we have here. A webhook just has everything on, it's active. So it's always listening and waiting for the data you send to it. The example we gave here, everything is just what we've taught in previous days. I believe that is day 15 when we started talking about webhooks and all this. We also went in depth to connect all the dots together is what I did here. That's day 15. We talked about webhook, Tally, without explaining what exactly a webhook is. And at day 28, which was yesterday, I taught you how to make HTTP calls, which we did successfully. Day 29 combines these together, where I bring the webhook and the HTTP together. And webhooks are also HTTP calls, but they are flowing in the opposite direction. Webhooks are flowing like if an HTTP call is coming this way. I mean, it's just very clear. I think I'm very clear here. Webhook is coming this way. So it's more like the way APIs are. I can just use this as the best example. Now, what I've noticed is that a webhook is always the one receiving this data. An API can send data out. An API can get something in and send it as well. While a webhook, all it has to do is to listen and receive. A webhook cannot send out back. Okay. Whatever we receive is what we call the payload body. And the payload body is the same JSON we learned to parse in that's day 28. The headers are the same headers we learned in day 29. I already explained how the HTTP module works. A webhook also works outputs. What it brings out is also the same thing. Let's use one of our previous examples so you get to see what I've been trying to say here. Let's use this. Okay, let's use it. Okay, so we have this here. I'm going to show you what I'm trying to say. And alright. Oh my god, got to pick this. So no authentication, save, then run this module alone. So this is just to show you live how this works. This is a payload. This is what I've been trying to say. So the output we have everything from the header, all this is the payload. Anyway, so this is the payload. Whatever output we get, the JSON is what we get returning, right? So that is what we are getting in. We're getting it in, right? So, and this, the headers and every single thing you see here that we set in place, every single thing is also the same thing that we also get when we are using a webhook. That is what this is all about. But the real difference between between polling and webhooks now is that, I mean, everything I've initially said here. Should I continue? I believe I will continue. So everything here, the polling is make.com checking through the intervals, always asking, okay, is there a new data every 15 minutes, right? That is what the polling is. And the minimum delay equals the polling interval, 15 minutes on free plan, like I've said. And bonds operations on what I mean is that even though there's nothing coming in, it's still going to what? Burn one credit, which is one operation. While a webhook, listen, it doesn't waste any options or anything, and you use it when a service actually supports them, and most modern SaaS does. The example that we've been using most of the time, which is we've been using Tally. So Tally has okay, I have to distance this a bit. So Tally has this Tally. So what new response? This is a native module that was built. It's a webhook, but it's just like visually coated and wrapped behind the way webhook normally looks like. So this was built specifically for Tally, to work with Tally itself. Because every single thing that we need, we only need to take the token and send it over to the Tally itself, the Tally account itself, and we can use this to also connect with Tally's OAuth. So every single thing is just we just built this specifically for Tally, but it looks exactly like this. In a nutshell, this is what we are looking at, but built for Tally. So what we have is this upgraded and specific. That is just the difference. So anyway, what we do have next is how a webhook delivers step by step. So this is what happens whenever you make a webhook. We've used this before, however, we can just create something together. So what we have here is you click on add. This is how you set up your webhook. You can give it any name. Let's call it test. God, I've used a lot of test guy. All right, so you create and you're going to get your web URL. This URL, when you paste it anywhere, you could paste it here, for example, and you get to see it says accepted. Hey, should that be going through now? Yes. So what this means is that the webhook is working, is active actually. That is it, but it did not detect any data. What we did just was pasted it on a web browser. So it's as if we wanted to send something right in, but we didn't. So you can see it's still listening, but if I try to reload this, it changes. It actually changes. You can see. So that is me trying to call it, but I did not send any data in. So this webhook is what we get to use. This one is what we get to use by connecting it to any other service, so we can get in, like the example we've been doing all this while, which we use Tally. I believe I explained this. I said we could use Tally and connect it in two different ways. The normal integration which we have here, the one that was built specifically for Tally, we could also still use this as well. It's basically the same thing. So we use our lead intake system and we have our integration here. So what we will see is that using this, you could delete this. This is currently connected to the Tally module. Yeah, that's why we have this. That's why we have this. So but we could make another connection as well using this by manually deleting this. And we go to Webhooks here, then we paste that URL. This same URL we got here, we are pasting it right inside Tally. So alright, you can see it's connected now. So we can start using this henceforth. We start using this, delete this actually. So we can start using this for anything we want to do. So if an event happens, it is going to It's going to mix anything in. An example of what I'm going to do real quick now is, let's go, save changes, and we're going to call this, So we have to fill in this form. I've done this in previous classes, but for those that are seeing this for the first time, no problem. Let's just go. Let's do this. In this form, we have everything here. I need a lead. So this is what we're actually hoping to run, right? I'll submit this, and you receive a response now. Yep. So one record will queue. I think, okay, I believe I did not. Yes, I did not bring this on. Yes, that's why. So process old data. Yes, save. So I didn't turn this on. That was right. So we see that it has it ran just now. Let's try it. And yes, Daniel, Nirvana, anything. No, let's just do it for here. And I need leads. Submit this, and this, you can see what happened just now. So it went in immediately. This is all about Webhook. This is what we're trying all this while. This is what's actually been all this while. And when we look at this, we can see the data and every single thing that we collected just now. You can see every single thing here. That is NirvanaXJude and every single one of them here. So you can see it here, and you also see where we got this. This is Tally's base URL, and we got the submission from this and the test token. Every single thing is what I believe you can understand now based on what we are getting in. You can understand what is going on. So we are going to set together, and this is basically us creating a custom webhook in make.com, but using it in the same sense that we've been building on HTTP on the HTTP module. We're going to do something similar, but bigger. We're going to make use of this. So we are going to be testing a webhook with Curl, and what I have here is just directing you on how you are going to start this. So you're going to create a new scenario, which is obviously what I've done here already. You create a new scenario, you click on the trigger webhooks, custom webhooks. That's everything already. You make.com generates a permanent URL. You copy it, you paste it to an external service settings, blah blah blah. So that's what we had there. Now what we're going to do this time is going to be very different. We are going to be testing this. Before we should have done this before even connecting it to Tally in the first place. That was my plan. I didn't know I was going to explain about Tally once again. So we are going to test this separately, and there are two ways where you can actually test this. You can test this using Postman. You can test it using Postman, or you can test this using your terminal. So if you have for those using Mac, if you have your terminal, you can open this up. If you are using Windows, you can use your PowerShell. You can use your PowerShell, and this is what we're going to use. So this is my own here. That's my terminal. I want to test this out. So if you want to check on Postman, I already recommended it. I believe that should be here. I recommended it on day 26, right? I think I recommended it somewhere here. Okay, so it's not here though. Where did I recommend that? So I've mentioned this in a previous class somewhere where I mentioned that you could check Postman. I'm trying to trace that, but anyway, that doesn't. This is Postman. You can create an account here, Postman. And sign in. You can sign up instead. I already signed up. So we could have when you sign in. All right. So you could just directly sign in here. I believe this is probably the first time in a while I'm sharing screen, and that's because I just figured that might be a good idea. So I created a new account. This is how Postman looks like. If you want to go deeper into Postman, you could see a video where you can watch, because going deeper into this, I would rather just use my terminal here, and so you're going to post something or probably add something somewhere, and you guys can watch that real quick if you prefer this version. But I prefer a quicker version. I will use my terminal instead. So what we have here, we're going to test this, and that is we want to receive response as well. We want to receive something like this, but right outside using a platform like Tally that's already built up. We want to do something manually ourselves. So what we have here is our webhook, right? So I'm going to pick out this webhook. Doesn't hurt, but let's disconnect this here. But I said doesn't hurt, doesn't matter. We have disconnected that. Let's do this. Alright. So we are waiting for data here, right? Let's go outside. We're waiting for data here, and once it comes in, currently have two successful. We're going to get one more soon. And I made ready an example here for you guys. Since we want to test this with Curl, so just click on this and go to your terminal, and that is what I have here. But I might have to change mine. It's something I need to work on. So let's do this real quick. We are going to add this, or we're going to use our terminal. I have to cancel it and restart again. So this is what we're going to do. Oh god, this is probably better, right? So our webhook ID, we're going to replace this with what we currently have here. Replace. Now when it comes to using Mac, the Mac terminal, you can leave this. But if you are using a Windows, I believe you need to, because Windows doesn't like this, so you might have to remove that. But in my case, I can leave that on, and we're going to send this. Let's copy this and go to our terminal. All right, thank you. And still on 2 success, right? Okay. Then we paste this in and we enter. We're going to see this run live. You see what happened just now? You can look at the time. So yes, you can see that this is working. This is actually working. Now we're going to check the data now. So we can see what exactly we typed here. That's amakaob.amakabusinessschool.ng. That's everything we have here as well. So what you guys are seeing is just what? Me using Curl to test our webhook. And I think I already added it here that you can use Postman or webhook.site or request bin as well. But it's Postman I tried rather than the rest. So what we have is just, literally showing you an example of we getting a webhook right outside without using a real service. That is just the example I decided to show you guys there. And when it comes to a payload, because you can see the payload that we do, this is a flat payload. This is the simple thing that we have here. When it comes to nested payload, you see something like this. A simple payload just gives you something like a name, a marker, email, this, and say that that's what we have here, right? But a nested payload, an example is when you are using like Stripe. When using Stripe, let me assume you are building this for a business. I need to work around this as well. A nested payload has a lot of variables, and the variables are examples are events, data, amount. Right inside this, you have data amount, so and data customer as well. And you can just see this that there are some things that are not the usual variables that we do see, and some are nested right inside. So you can see that the whole amount here is nested right inside another one. So this is not the usual one that we see on flat payload like this. So a flat payload example is what we just got here. While it's different from this, so I mean they are basically both outputs. We are basically getting output in these cases. There's an array payload. This example, I believe I explained to you guys how arrays are multiple times, including even using the one for the HTTP module. So when it comes to using that as well, you get to see what various bundles. That means if you do remember, a bundle is just one like this. So what we would have seen if what we're using was what an array payload, we'll have seen multiple bundles. That's about, let me see, starting from 2, 3, 4, 5 bundles inside a single array. So that is, but this is just let me say this is the JSON format, right? Well, what you have been seeing all this while when it comes to arrays, the visual way we've been seeing it on make.com. That's what you guys have been seeing all this while. So headers are also available on Webhooks. What I've been trying to do, what this video is just basically about, is that we're trying to see the similarities we get when we're also using it in Webhooks as well. Because Webhooks are also what HTTP calls. So it's more or less gives us the same kind of output as well. So we are sending a custom response. That is the kind of thing we see. Though this is not showing us anything like a status that says okay, but since we are getting an output, we know everything is actually going well. So in this, it says make.com automatically responds 200 okay, nothing to configure. So when it comes to this, though we're not seeing that, since we have an output there, it means everything went right fine. So when it comes to a custom response for Slack, interactive components, payment processors, or chatbot integration, you need to what? If you want to get that web status code itself, you need to set it up this way. Add a webhook module after that trigger, whatever you are waiting, webhook response. So webhook response is going to give you, this is what I'm saying. Let's go in and let's use this. Something like this now, for example. We bring in webhook as well, but this time around we say response. Since we're connecting to something, you can see the status here. So it picks out the status code this, for example. That's how we get to see the response. So that is just a very explanation around that. And one thing that I need to tell you, something that is very important, is that when you use a webhook response module, you need to place it right before any operations. The external service has a timeout that is usually between 5 to 10 seconds. Between 5 to 10 seconds. So if you need to do any heavy processing, you need to respond immediately and continue after the response module. If you need to do any heavy processing, you need to respond immediately and continue using processing after the response module itself. So all those are just like visual. I believe they are not too hard. They're just virtual or virtual. I believe I'm tired now. They're just virtual, explanation on how web receive the response, and we trying this outside real services. And what we have here as well. The next one we have is now Webhook Security. Now there's something you guys need to be aware about. That is the fact that your webhook URLs are public. So anyone can post to it and send the fake data. Like what I have here. If anyone, this is webhook response. Like what I have in my custom webhook here. anyone that sees this could just, anyone that has this, when we use it, could just post anything right into it, right? And that could destroy whatever that we've been working on. How do we ensure that what we are getting is what exactly we've been working on? What I mean here is that I am connected to, let's assume I'm connected to a real service now, which I'm using Tally, for example. So if I'm connected to Tally, if I'm actually connected to Tally, the kind of response, what I get from Tally, the example I gave you, I showed you guys the other time, not this. This is an example of showing you that what anyone could actually send anything right in, and they could build something that could crash your system or whatever they are working on. So you need to configure a Webhook security right behind it. And the way you do this is, since we're connected to Tally now, we're going to once again copy and paste. Okay, paste. Then we're going to fill this in. Daniel. Okay, sorry, this is the wrong person, but I believe you still know what that means. So 200, and I need leads. I always need leads. I need leads. So what we have here, let's run this. I know you need to just run it that way. Let's submit this, and we're going to get the response we just got in. As you can see here, we have a way to know if this is actually coming from the right place, from where we asked it to come from. What I mean is that we'll be able to secure any other thing right after this, any other module, because most of the things that we understand that we're building here are very important. In a case where it's like a Stripe payment, for example, you could know that this is about money. This is about something very serious, right? This is about resources. So we need to ensure that whatever is coming right from what we expect it to come from, and not someone that's taking our webhook somewhere and is just trying to destroy every single thing that we've worked on. So there are different signatures to these services. Stripe has its own, Tally, which I just used, has its own as well. And this is what we can see from. So you can see this. Let me bring the screen right to the side. So you can see this. So every single one of them have their own. Every webhook they send, they compute what we call an HMark verification. So it has this with the secret and request body equals to a unique hash. So what we have here, example, you can use this. So this, every single time we know this is actually coming from the right place, which is this Tally here, how it looks like here, and it's coming from a form, right? That is what we get to see. Very simple, very straightforward, and I believe the same thing also applies to GitHub and Shopify, various other platforms out there as well. So you are going to see things like this. The one for Tally are in base, the format are in base 64 and encoded HMark. So everything inside this access token here, we've been able to work on it here. We didn't do it, it's from Tally directly. So we know that how we're going to, basic way I've been able to do this when it comes to Webhook security is I had a filter between. So in between this and the module, wherever I want to send this to, let's assume I'm sending this to Notion now. I want to create a data source item. So before I get here, I'm going to add a filter to it, and the filter literally is me saying HMark verification. This is a simpler way to actually do it. I believe this is better. So what we have here is submission, blah blah blah. It's more or less the same. This and this is more or less the same. So if I say this contains, case insensitive contains, I would already know how it looks like. So I can say this contains this. Let me see. I could just prompt every single thing here. No. Okay, how do I just get this? How do I get this? Let's see if we can analyze this. Yes, so this is directly from this. So I can take this, which is the first one, and just come back here. So this is a very simple way which I used to work around that. A very simple one. And there's another method which you can also use, and that is this time around you're not just trying to block anything coming, because a filter, basically, you know what a filter does. It just blocks it, and whichever one works exactly like that, it's going to send it through. But anyone that doesn't, it will not it through. The other one I use is, let's get this off, unlink this, and let's add a router to this. So let's add a router. So I use a router. In this case, I can decide that this is what should have the HMAC verification. Any other thing, I can use this more like a fallback. Any other thing, this is a fallback now. Okay, just give it, cancel it out, and give it fallback. So you see, I can send this somewhere safe, somewhere that I know they don't have access to anything. But me sending it there is trying to read what exactly is going on. So is it that probably is trying to come in and destroy whatever we've been working on. So that is basically just the security based on what I have in the past. And if there's any other one, I mean anyone can tell me, please. I would love to actually know if there's any other way to do it aside from what I just showed you, what I've just shown you. So yeah, so that's basically what I do when it comes to webhook signatures, to ensure this is coming from the right source. So when verification is mandatory or optional, I have to add it there. So when it comes to a lead intake CRM, like what we have here, which is on Tally, this can be optional. It's your choice. Okay, so you can have fake leads in your database. Like if you do remember the other time, we can use the same thing that we did here. We can actually use that one from fake users and what? Send this and bombard our entire system. We can actually bombard our entire system with this. But that will hurt our what we're building, right? When it comes to payment confirmations too, it is mandatory, right? Because a fake webhook means a free product access. So if you don't have all these security measures in place, you are just going to give someone a free access to your products, and I mean that would cost, right? That would cost you money, right? Access control is also mandatory in this case because a fake webhook means unauthorized access. Whoever doesn't have access to this, whoever doesn't have authority to this and probably did not pay or is not actually authorized to do whatever it is, would have access to it if you don't put some of these things in place. So you need to ensure that at least one way or the other, what you put this in place, a verification to know if it is coming from the right source. From the form I'm getting it from, I want to know if it's actually coming from the right source. So the other thing is content publishing. Worst case, you have unwanted content. Well, I would say this is actually necessary rather than optional. I say this is necessary because if you have a platform, you are trying to build an audience or something, and someone sends content that are not fitting to what you are meant to post, it's going to probably destroy your algorithm or destroy your reputation as well. So it's probably the best if you have this in place. Reporting digest. This one I said is not needed because I mean this is sending directly to you. No one gives an F because this is just you personally. So when you receive all this, I mean you would know that someone is trying to target you, but you don't really need this. Anyway, I put together a webhook best practices. You need to your webhooks need to respond within 10 seconds, which on make.com the default response is immediate, so you might not even need to stress about this. If you're using make.com on some other platforms that also works this way as well. So when you plan for duplicate deliveries too, service retries if they don't receive 200. So in your scenario, you can do something, add the duplicates before creating a Notion record. Check if the record with this email already exists. What I mean here is almost like literally asking you to do something like you getting a search, no, I'm not trying to do this, thank you. If you don't want to duplicate something like a search, why does this keep doing this? Let's look for this on Notion, and I type this, and I type this. So what I mean here is that you have something like a search object, so it tries to confirm if this is a lead form, for example, and you're getting this from Tally, you have to confirm here if this lead already exists or not. You know how to work around that already. So you have to confirm, get access to the database. Let's just quickly explain this. Let's do this quickly. And we are in. So it's going to search our database and we'll add the filter to know if it exists. If it doesn't exist, it lets it pass through. But if it exists, we need to pick a unique identifier, right? And the unique identifier I believe we're using before was our email. So if it does not exist, what the hell? This should have been easy. Okay, how come we're not seeing it about exist here? Okay. code. Well, what we can do now is does not equal. Now this is for checkbox. Okay, this is actually taking, sorry, I apologize, this is actually taking based on what we have in Notion. So does not equal whatever we're trying to map into it. If we're getting something, we have been able to map it here. So let's see, let's try to bring it back here again, but we can't find anything. Okay, that is actually weird because we have a response here. Anyway, we're not about to start that. This is how you get to plan for in any case where you might get a duplicate response, and you get to debug the webhook site first before connecting to a real service, like what I did. And this is a case where you can even try it, you can test it out with something like Tally, you can test it out with this Postman, you can also test it out with this as well, so as to ensure that whatever you are building is strong. So you debug every single thing and you build your make.com mapping around a real payload, not what you guess it might be. So whatever you build here, in any case where you do something like this, you need to build it in a JSON structure that maybe I say core it is that is similar to what you might get if you are going to use that service. Whatever service you are trying to do, if it's probably for payment or anything, you need a similar structure, something like this, something using this, or you can just tell AI to work around that for you. And log coming webhooks, consider adding a notion or an table record as first step of every webhook scenario to log in raw payloads. Yes, that is actually very important. There's something about getting payload and being able to get something. Let me see if we can quickly do something around that. Whenever we're using an for example, I believe whenever we use this pass response, we are already structuring to something else. But if we use this no instead, let's see what happens here. I believe this should be probably the best way to explain this to you guys. Okay, so let's run this module. What you see here now, you can see that it is what giving us this way, unlike what it gave us initially. When we have this pass response. Let's try it once again. You can see this time around that it is what it gave us in a very short way. So what is going on here is exactly what I explained here, where we want to see how the raw payload is. So what you are going to get in from the raw payload this time around, you're going to send it to Notion. Probably you have like a database or any just log request like that. So you get to see what exactly is going on. If you don't send it to Notion, you could also send it to your Telegram. I mean, I personally even use Telegram. This is my workspace log. I use it to create leads every day. So it's getting leads for me. I've been doing this for months actually. So I have my database full of leads. I built this to, oh my god, you can see the time today. So it keeps getting leads for me every single time. But I have a log. I have a way to farm if anything goes wrong or not, and I have a way to track and see what exactly is going on. Though what I have here is not a raw payload. There is a place where I'm keeping that raw payload. I'm able to track that as well. But visually, I'm able to see what exactly is going on, and I get to see if we have an issue come up or not, and the amount of leads we have at the end of the day gets calculated for me, and I'm able to know if we encountered any issue or not. So which other thing do I want to explain? I mean, that's basically it. That is it I've done in this video. Try to walk around it, and I hope you really enjoy this video. So the only thing I changed, I told you I'm recording the same day. So the only thing I just changed was I had to wear this on and the cap, right? Looks cool, I guess. So yeah, we're going to day 30 tomorrow, and that is literally half of the entire series. And we're still on day 3. It's still going to get more interesting. And I'm putting a lot of notes down, a lot of things that I believe would help us, make more content layers. Aside from the 60 days series, which talks about the 5 layers of AI, there are some things I believe I should still be able to explain to you guys and let you guys understand. So I'm putting every single thing down. I should be able to have a little bit more content right after the 60 days series. So I'll just add that. Probably it will be 5, 6 more. So that's 66. I'm not going to jinx that. I should probably make that 67 or maybe 70. So we get, a better number. All numbers are good. Anyway, it was nice connecting with you once again, and I'm going to see you tomorrow. Tomorrow might still be today. I might decide to make another today to change day 30. The thing is that I'm trying to catch up when it comes to making these contents, and I really need to, I have these resources, put them together. So I believe I need to pump them out there as fast as I can, because I have a couple of projects I need to focus on. So yeah, I would be connecting with you guys in the comment section, and wherever you find these videos, I'll be connecting with you guys, and I hope you understand this. If you have not, just think, I've explained a lot of things, and there are some things you don't understand. You could drop a comment, request for even a video. When I check it, I'll just make a video real quick and explain to you guys how that works based on what I understand. And if I don't, I'll just direct you somewhere. All right, see you guys.